Kia ora everybody, my name is Paige Wilson. I am a community manager for Aggro Crab, and this is my talk on why you should give your community manager a knife. So if you don't know what a community manager does, don't worry, because every community manager will tell you something slightly different each time, but basically I run the marketing and community for studios to cultivate a brand and tone for our games. Before the industry, I used to make really stupid TikToks, and I still do make stupid TikToks, but now I get paid for it. And I've probably been in the industry for about 5 years now and spent the first year of my career as a motion capture and 3D artist. So I currently run the community for Aggro Crab. We are an indie studio based in Seattle, Washington. We're a pirate crew of about 12 people with a rather chaotic and out-of-pocket tone. For those who aren't aware of our studio, Aggro Crab has a very specific brand. We pride ourselves on being unprofessional and aggressive and pushing the limits on our marketing where we can. This can get us in trouble sometimes, but we have to remind ourselves that we're not Nintendo. We can't just tweet, "When you can't let go of a game, hashtag Mario vs. Donkey Kong," and get 2,000 likes on Twitter. Like, we have to work a little bit harder because no one knows who we are. And no one, like Nintendo, everyone knows Mario. They can do this, but we can't. So we decided to see how far we can push the limit. And boy, did we push it. I mean, we're making games. Like, we should be having fun. Why can't we just tweet penis? Like, we did it. And look how good it did. Like, and it didn't drive any wish lists at all. Like, it didn't benefit anything other than the tweet. But we did it because we can. One time when Twitter removed the verification ticks, we decided to impersonate Cult of the Lamb back when they removed it, and we impersonated them and said that in the new update we're adding sex. This was before they did add sex to the game, so yeah. We also didn't tell Cult of the Lamb that we were going to make this tweet, by the way. We just messaged in our own Slack, and I was like, "Hey guys, can I do this?" And they were like, "Yeah, let's do it." And again, it's because we can. This is the brand that we wanted to create. And it's so fun getting to do this kind of stuff. So now that you have a rough idea of our brand and what we like to do, let me tell you about our latest project. Recently, we launched our underwater soulslike game, Another Crab's Treasure, back in April this year. And it did pretty well, which was really, really great. We often describe it as Dark Bob Souls Pants. And the main reason why is you play as a hermit crab named Krill. He had his shell repossessed because he didn't pay his taxes, because there are taxes in the ocean now. And he then goes on this epic treasure hunt across the polluted ocean, fighting a variety of sea creatures and crustaceans to buy back his shell. While this concept sells itself when you first hear it, being an indie team, we still had to work our butts off to still get our name out there for people to know about it. We started marketing Another Crab's Treasure in, I would say, the last 2.5 years of development, and in that time we reached about 500,000 followers across a variety of platforms, including 360K on TikTok, almost 100K on Twitter, and about 50K on YouTube, which is really exciting. And you want to know how we did that? The team gave me a very important tool. That's me. They gave me a knife and a gun. They gave me both. But like, no, that's actually me in a crab suit that we spent real company money on, and that's the knife that they gave me. And that was from the company kitchen. And when I had that, everyone took maybe a 2-meter step back from me. But, okay, so this does sound like I am just using this as an excuse to sound really chaotic and aggressive in my play-by-play talk, and it is, but it's also because I want you to think of this knife as a really bad metaphor for how me, the community manager, has been given a more powerful stance and presence. Without this knife, I'm just a little guy. But with this knife, what heinous possibilities do I now have with this tool in my hand? I'm saying that your community manager needs to be given more freedom, more tools to create more. These tools create the potential to make higher scaled content to stand out, especially if you're an indie team trying to make a brand for yourself. However, this knife is not the only thing I need, though. Everyone else also needs a knife and a gun. This freedom of marketing coincides with large collaboration with our dev team, a time investment that they contributed to content creation that heavily paid off for us. I'm standing on my soapbox today to yell about how developing your game with content creation in mind is going to benefit your marketing campaign by a long shot. I'm going to go over some of the dev tools the team implemented for me to assist in our marketing, as well as some of the examples of how I collaborated with our team directly to produce some of our highest quality and highest performing marketing beats for Another Crab's Treasure. I would also like to mention that I'm going to be in a panel at 2:30 with a very talented Meredith and Lisa to answer questions about unhinged marketing questions. So if you have more questions after, come to that panel at 2:30. But yeah, so one of the very first things, okay, actually, I have a lot of talking ahead, so just in case you get a little bit bored or you need something, just like look at the jingly keys, just look at those. So, okay. One of the things I asked for when joining Aggro Crab was access to the Unity project. I've often heard that teams don't feel the community manager needs access to this, but if your CM asks for access because they have ideas, I highly encourage you give it to them. My coworker spent maybe like an hour out of their day to help me set it up, and it was done. I spent some time familiarizing myself with the project, asked a few questions, took notes, watched videos, and I had it nailed in about a day or two. And I'm also not there to program or push anything to branches, so you're not going to wake up to extra bugs. I'm not going to have deleted stuff in the game. One time I was really scared of that, and my boss said, I would like to see you try. So like, it's cool. Like, nothing bad's going to happen if I have that access. But still, you know, like, why? What are these benefits? I don't have to ask you, the devs, for as many things. I will annoy you less. No longer do I have to say, like, hey, when you have time, can you record and editor this part of the game, and then maybe put this asset in here too and do this angle? Like, I now have the option to do it myself if I feel that's more efficient for both sides. I have heard that sometimes CMs have to wait weeks for some footage or an image asset, and then by then the meme is dead or the joke is over, and then there was no point in spending all that time anyway. You're genuinely missing marketing opportunities by repeating this long process. The time cut by me having this access to the project cut hours of work for both the devs and me. I don't have to bug you every day for assets, for a stupid marketing idea that will do numbies, and you can carry on with what you need to do as well. Having access to the project is great, but what made it better was actually that we at Aggro Crab prioritized and developed the game with content creation in mind through all of production, which brings me to our beloved dev menu. So our very talented programmer Storm, they created a bunch of easy dev tools to assist the whole team in the editor, including me, who often forgets how to do everything all the time. So I could just message Storm and ask if they could implement any simple buttons into the debug menu to help my content creation. I need to make a TikTok where Krill is wearing this costume. There's a button for it. I need to record this specific cutscene that's 5 hours into the game for a trailer. There's a button to load the scene. I want to turn Krill into a god so he can fly around the world for just easy movement and navigation. Done, bro. You just press G. I can do that. You want to kill him? You want to kill Krill? There's a button for it, okay? Like, you get it. I want something, there's a button. It's really handy. So Storm investing this time to create a few buttons pays off in the long run. I don't have to ask someone to show me where we hid the secret costume, or if someone has a save file of the section of the game, I can just do it myself. Storm also made me a Steam branch specifically for content creation, so this was just a regular dev build without the debug messages popping up all of the time, and that was incredibly helpful. Nick and Kaylin, our co-founders of Aggro Crab, were my main partners in crime with our marketing efforts. It helps having a team or a coworker who is always down to clown or just enjoys content creation. One of the dev tools Nick made for me was a camera mode that I can use. Pressing O to activate camera mode allowed me to move around the scene and zoom in and out with plus and minus. This came in handy for screenshots, trailers, and just general ship posts that I wanted to make on the fly. This took a couple of days for them to implement, but it saved us hours in screenshots and general recording time because we had less people needing to get involved in the process. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talk and no show, and I really can't just keep putting Subway Surfers and Jingly Keys up on the screen the whole time. So let me show you an example of some of the above tools actually implemented into a marketing beat. As you can tell, Another Crab's Treasure is a very bright and colourful Souls-like, especially when you compare it to the other games in the genre. You understand why we called it Dark Bob Souls Pants. And it's hard to believe it is one sometimes for people. We had many players before launch say that it's too happy to be a Souls-like. And we were like, okay, fine. Like, you say that so much, you want a dark Souls-like game? You've aggroed the crab, that's what you're gonna get. So, on April 1st this year, which is also 24 days before we launched our game, we announced a new feature we were adding to the game called Dark Souls-like mode. Have you looked at our bright, colourful Souls-like game and thought, this is too happy? We need more dark and mysterious Souls-like games. There just isn't enough out there. Fear not, fellow gamer, we have added a new feature to Another Crab's Treasure, Dark Souls-like mode. This new feature will immediately remove all the vibrant colours in the game and replace it with a more desaturated and dark colour scheme. Does Krill appear too happy? Let's remove that sparkle in his eyes and determination for adventure. In Dark Souls-like mode, Krill will become depressed. Look at the difference in his walk. Not a hope in sight. If Krill's depression starts to ruin your experience, Dark Souls-like mode unlocks a new costume. You might recognize it for a redacted, copyright strike redacted. This costume will hide Krill's defeated face, so you can pretend everything's fine. Dark Souls-like mode also turns all levels into a poison swamp, because it's not a real Souls-like game without one. Look at that poisony goodness. We also added Ano Londo. Fuck it. Yeah, so that video gained a total of 5.6 million views across all of our platforms, and it could not have been done without the help from our entire team and my access to the mentioned above dev tools. But you know what's even better? Is that this only took me about 3 days roughly to make. And the main secret behind it only taking up this amount of time is we already had about 80% of the assets in the game for this bit. Using the tools you already have is what is really going to save you time. No one really needed to make anything new. We had a themed costume in the game already. The dark color scheme and depressed Krill was from later moments in the game. And so they were already there for me to use in the project. Now, if the team wasn't willing to help, that would have been the end of the video, just these 2 moments here. But because our team prioritizes assisting in content creation for our marketing, we were able to add, which ended up being the funniest turning points in the marketing beat, was the Poison Swamp and Ano Londo. So Nick and I sat in a Discord call for maybe 20 minutes, I would say. I screen shared my project and he showed me how to change the terrain in our gunk asset to represent a poison swamp, just for the bit. So the asset was really used to represent oil spill and general pollution, and all I had to do was add it. After leaving this call, I get sent a video, a Unity project screen recording. Nick found Ano Londo on the asset store and threw it into Another Crab's Treasure. And thus, we had our final big beat for our April Fool's video. 5.6 million total views across 5 different social platforms. Sure, I did produce the video, but this would not have been possible without the help from our team. The time used by our devs to help me is an investment our team knows is worth it because it upped the quality of our marketing beat by a landslide. And now we have the numbers to prove it. That's pretty sick. And ideas like this don't come from one person. Everyone's input provides new and refreshing ideas that I alone couldn't think of. And I love that. That's my favorite part. It saves me from psychic damage over time, even though it is too late. I do still have psychic damage, but it's helped a lot. I think one of the common questions I get asked when I explain our marketing strategies are, yeah, but Aggro Crab can create the style of content because that's your brand. So what about studios or games that need a more PG or professional tone? And then I open my trench coat and I show you these other examples. So providing numbers and stats are a good way to convince your leads or team to try to be more adventurous. While I am lucky I can tweet heinous shit and bark at people online, you can still do this, just a little bit more toned down, which I totally understand. I like to call this one the I broke into the game and changed something hee. This video makes the community feel like they're in on a secret, and even though all I did, or a dev could, was change the texture of this lobster to blue and then recorded it. And obviously this doesn't actually get pushed to the game, it's just for this one bit. And basically, this drove engagement because the community suggested other criminal activity. I could do like a joke and like this, and then other people would suggest new ideas, and it's just creating this really cool community online. I called this one the Dev Team Reports Patch Update. If you don't know Landfall, they released a game this year called Content Warning. You are a group of content creators who have to record monsters and specifically to get views and clout, and you rewatch the video at the end of the day. They use this in-game mechanic to market the game's features and patch updates. The direct report from the devs makes the audience feel trusting in the update because it's coming from the source. Again, totally doable for your team if they are willing to invest in this time.
How did you even add 13 new monsters in your update?
So a lot of people asked me, they told me, could you please add one more monster to the game? But my philosophy is 10x it, and then add 3 to that.
So why did you only make one map?
Yeah, so they're showcasing their own game through this marketing and having the dev team involved. And then this one here, I finally like to call the I added this feature, should we do it more? This asks the audience for feedback and encourages engagement and investment from players because they want to see what else you're going to add to the game.
I just added heavy breathing to my indie game. It sounds great. This is exactly the kind of thing that gamers love. I wonder, though, maybe he isn't breathing heavily enough. What do you think? Should he breathe even harder?
So obviously this sets the tone for your game because this is what you're putting out into the world. And everyone's interested in wanting to see what other weird stuff you're going to add to your game. And overall, I just think the main point to get across is it's all about experimentation. And investing time on this form of content will help you find your voice. Collaboration with my team through DevTools isn't the only way I've had help through our marketing campaign. Most of the time our marketing beats that turn successful, they were actually ideas we cooked on together. So it'll start with me pitching something we need to address, or someone else will have had a funny bit they think we can turn into content. They're usually very informal ideas that we have just spitballed into our team Slack and then going, haha, okay, but like, what if we actually did this? And there's also a lot of ideas that we've had to scrap as well. It's a balance that you have to communicate with your team to see what you can do and what you can't do. Collaboration ideas include additions like costumes and assets that were already planned to be added into the game, but we turned the narrative into asking the community, hey, should we add this, yes or no? This keeps the community in the loop with what we're up to, but also sometimes they suggest something that makes the costume better or gives a new content idea, so they are genuinely collaborating with us, and that builds trust. The gun mode is a great example. So if you don't know, we have a gun in our game. The gun was a slow development over a few months. Originally, it was just a joke with no intention of adding it to the game. We remade the if a dog wore pants, would it wear it like this or like this? And then we added our Aggro Crab charm and gave it a gun. After the community really reacting to this, though, and suggesting we hide it in the game, it developed into what if there was one gun you can find in the game somewhere and it one-hits everything? Since it's a Souls-like game, it can be pretty difficult for players, so we were like, what if there's a funny mode where you don't have to deal with hard enemies, it just one-hits everything? And there is a developer called Dan who is making Squirrel with a gun. And we actually asked if we could borrow his gun asset and then shout him out and just do a little collaboration. It is also coming out at the end of August, so you have to go and get that one now as well. But after a month or so of that, we had a lot of comments and we cooked a bit more. And we were like, well, what if we make this a really good assist option? Accessibility advocates loved the idea that you could toggle give Krill a gun and it would one-hit any enemy you wanted. So it came to a really wholesome end, which you don't really expect with a gun. And we were even on news articles about being the first accessible Souls-like, which was amazing for our coverage, but it opened the door for more players to enjoy this. We really didn't expect it. But sometimes these ideas just develop as we cook over time because that's the environment we created. Allowing me, the community manager, to collaborate and work directly with the dev team gave us so many opportunities we never would have had if I wasn't allowed to use the project or be given any of the tools like my knife or my gun. I do understand for some that the time investment is not as possible to collaborate as much as we at Aggro Crab do, but starting small and collaborating with your team and explaining how letting a community manager run a little rabid can be incredibly worth it. Even dedicating a Wednesday afternoon to content from a dev can do so much for your community marketing. It's also important to acknowledge that all community manager skills and preferences and strategies vary. So some community managers might work totally different to how I do and what we prioritize. And your CM might say that TikTok is not the place for your game. So I just recommend that you communicate with your community team and pick and choose what really works for you and your game. As much as I rant and rave about how all of this work couldn't be done without our entire team's effort, this is not to discredit my own work either. I know I've also worked my butt off, but we're a team, and having the support from others too can coexist. We're a team, and they're the best. They're what makes our brand what it is. So I could go on, but I'm just so proud of our team. Everyone's worked so hard on another Crab's Treasure, and our brand wouldn't be the same without every single one of them. Because we are a pirate crew of crabs. So thank you for listening, and Godspeed.
So how often is it that you're coming up with the ideas versus the team coming up with the ideas in the Hear Me Out in Slack?